Believe it or not, I'm actually working on the ball joint modification. Wow. So, what I need to do is I need to find out exactly how far I've shortened this, okay? Because just through trial and error and that stuff, this arm is what it needs to be. Now, they're left and right arms. I believe this is the passenger side. I'd have to look again, I think so. But anyway, the arm itself, the stamping and that stuff for the main body is completely symmetrical. Okay, they just welded this onto one side, and you can see the plates are basically the same. This one's been cut, except for the holes there, and it's stamped left and right. Okay, this is the new one, and you can see that they changed the plate a little bit, but then they just put 4 holes in, so they don't have to mess with having 2 different plates, you know. So this one's stamped right, so that is the well, that should be the passenger side. Anyway, it matches the right one here. So what I need to do is measure it. Okay, so I've got these nice big calipers here, and these will get me close. And you figure, with what I'm doing here, I don't need to get it within, you know, 2-3 thousandths or anything like that. Quite honestly, anything within a 1/16 of an inch is close enough, because 1/16 inch, you know, can get moved around, jockeyed around and that stuff with the shims. So now these jaws are long enough to just set them actually right down onto the table. Make sure I'm basically in the middle of the thing there, in the middle of the back here. Now, kind of hard to see in there in the camera at that angle, but I want to push it up there. I'm just going to snug that up a little bit to make sure it isn't cocked on the ruler this way, okay? There's little adjustments up here. I probably need to tweak those a little bit to make it a bit more accurate, but you know, the 0 here, it's halfway between 2/16 marks. Okay, and so I can extrapolate or guesstimate, you know, what that is or whatever. But if I look down here, this 0 here lines up with 35 perfectly. Okay, that mark there lines up with 36 perfectly. So I can take this measurement in millimeters and go from there. So let's move it over to this one, and if you can see, it's roughly only about 1 inch. Okay, I haven't moved it yet. It's 35 millimeters, or just a hair over 13 3/4. Okay, so let's loosen that up. Let's slide it up. Let's make sure I'm in the middle. And I have got, yeah, see, now it's off the millimeter mark, but it's really darn close. That's centimeters, actually. So that's 320 millimeters and 326 millimeters. All right, long story short with the measuring, it's really, really close to 1 inch. I don't necessarily want to make it any shorter than I have to, because that just means more shims up top to pull the upper control arm in if need be. So it's at 0.950 right now. That'll make it just the tiniest bit, you know, 15-20 thousandths longer than what it's actually shortened right now, which is perfectly fine. You know, I could probably even drop it to 3/4 of an inch or whatever, but the reality is I'm going to do this fixed, and then I'm going to make a final adjustment on the upper control arm depending on how many shims I want to put in there. So 950 is an easier number to use. 1 inch would be even easier, but like I said, I don't want to end up having to put shims up in more shims up in the top than I have to. Well, so this is basically the amount we're looking to take out. I could shift the position around a little bit, but I want to eliminate that hole. That's the sway bar mount, and it doesn't line up. You know, so I could shift it this way. I don't want to shift it back any closer to the shock mount than I have to. You know, I could weld the hole closed. That would be a bigger pain in the butt. So, and the thing is I need to keep this spacing up here the same. You know, so I don't want to come up any closer to the front here and that stuff. So I think what might work here is basically cut the back off here, cut this inch section out, take this off, and then just weld it back there once this thing has been put back together. But for right now, what I need is the .950. Now I can start building the jig to hold these, because I think what I'm probably going to do is build a cutting jig that will hold this solid so that I can put it into the bandsaw and chop that 950 out accurately. So that's the plan for now. We'll see. Well, one thought here is this is about a 6-inch wide, 3/4, 5/8, I don't know, thick, something like that, for the cutting jig. Okay, now if the bottom here, this plate has to get cut off anyway so that I can get in here and weld in the reinforcements. Okay, you can see it's in the way here. I can't really get in there very well. So plan is to take that plate off, and then that will give me, you know, a smooth surface. I'll probably just cut it down both sides, leaving this as the bottom, and then that way I should be able to just hold it down like right here with a clamp. I'll put something here to register it. Okay, and what I'm hoping is that you know, then this will be cut off about here. So then I'll clamp this plate into the saw, do the slice, index at the .950, possibly even have a way to just move this and tighten it back down, and then do the other slice and take that piece off, and then both cuts are nice and parallel, made on the bandsaw. You know, so if there's any wobble, wave in the bandsaw, you know, let's say it cuts like this, then they both match like that, and then they'll go back together nicely. So, and I don't need a left and right since they're symmetrical, except for the fact that this piece hanging out, you know, if I put it right in the center, then it's hanging out here. Oh, but you know, that wouldn't matter, because the bandsaw blade's going to be here, and it's going to be clamped in back here. So that's a non-issue. Okay, cool. I can make just one cutting jig. I was afraid I was going to have to use 2 pieces of this. I may use the other piece for the welding jig then, and I'm not quite sure exactly how I'm going to do that. I'll probably turn a chunk of metal or whatever that'll fit in here, that'll hold that and register it and keep it at the right angle. If I'm going to do it with that plate gone, and I can do it with this thing, you know, clamped down flat, that'll probably make it a whole lot easier. I'll just be able to register this, and yeah, we'll see. You know, it's an evolving process, and it's not like I do this all the time, so I got to kind of figure it out as I go. I started looking at ways to clamp it down, and I started, these bottoms aren't really all that flat or even. This plate is decent, and I could clamp it down over that, but I was looking at ways to cut this off, and then I saw this big weld here and that stuff, and on this particular one, it kind of lines up in the area that might get cut off, but kind of a pain in the butt, and I was going, man. But when I started looking at the new one, okay, it's only welded along the top edge here. So if I come down and cut this, as long as I'm above the bottom here, okay, and I cut that there, same on this side, cut it down there, that plate will fall away and then leave me a nice long area there to clamp down on. I could, you know, clamp down on this on that flat plate and do the cut first and then cut the pieces off. I've got to decide if I want to do that. It's just that's going to be kind of hard to, either way it's going to be a pain in the ass to clamp this thing down. So I'm not too worried about how these are designed. That's a factor. I'm more concerned with how the new arm is on the plate, because that's what I have 10 of. This one is just a piece for prototyping, so I'm not too worried about it. Got a cutoff wheel set up in the electric. I could do it with air. Might be a little easier or whatever, but basically what I plan on doing is just coming along here and cutting that plate right off. So let's see how it goes. That's through in a couple spots there, so I'm going to give it a little convincing here so I don't actually have to just cut right into that too far. Oh, yeah, see, it's already loose. Okay, turn it over and do the other side. And yeah, I did get a bit of a wow in there. Really doesn't matter because this is going to get just welded right back to where it was. So in fact, while I'm thinking about it, let's that's just going to give me a little indicator where to line that up there. Oh, that's a bit warm. Okay. Well, still in the picture. Let's see if I can do it without blocking the way. That's the steering stop. Limits the range of motion on the steering. That kept getting in the way with my cover here. I should have changed it, moved it, whatever. And this disc is spent. I don't know if you can see it in there. See the bump here in the middle? These are what was 7-inch cutoff wheels. When they get too small for the 7-incher, they're usually just about the right size for these. So I just use them down a little further. Alright, let's see if we can cut this one a little nicer. Alright, so when it goes back together, I can just line those marks back up and weld it back together. That's the hope, that's the plan. Let's see how flat these are as to whether or not they'll sit down on the well, it still rocks around a bit more than I would like. And even just eyeballing it, you can tell. I'm not quite sure, you know, if I'm going to clamp it here, then I need something, you know, under the backside here and that stuff to hold it, so that when it cuts off, you know, both sides have to be held. Because what I'm hoping to do is just move the plate, you know, that 900, 950, and then slice again. Both halves stay anchored down. So that's the hope. Yeah, see, the plate's fairly flat. That would have that just might be the way to go. I can always tack weld this one back on, and yeah, I just might end up doing that. Tack weld that back on, and keep that under there till I'm done doing the cut. What I was hoping to do though is if I can cut it here, you know, then when this gets shortened, basically, you know, this will just extend back to here further. 6 one, half a dozen of the other for the most part, but I thought, well, it'll push the reinforcement back just a little bit more. But this is the saw I plan on cutting it on. And basically, what I'm hoping to do is, you know, put it into here, clamped on that base. And what dawned on me was, you know, when I was talking about trying to hold it down, all I have to do is hold this end down. If I make this back cut here first, this piece can fall away. Then I can index it back in the the additional 900 thousandths inch, whatever, and then make the second cut. And this piece will still be anchored to the plate, and good to go. And I can put a couple little guides on each side to make sure that this can't twist or anything, which I do either way. So what I want to see here is, I don't really want to use any more of that plate than I absolutely have to. So what I'm doing is I'm from the cut, and I don't even need this here. From the cut, I'd really like to come back about 8 inches, be fully supported, and when the vise comes in, I'll have good, nice even clamping on it and everything. So I know that I need about 8 inches. Okay, so we'll just put a mark on here. 8 inches. That's going to be right about here on this. Okay, and I haven't quite decided how to mount the clamp. If anything, it's going, you know, might be a C-clamp that mounts in here and comes up, goes down, and holds that. Might have to reach from, you know, further out. So I got to figure that out first or whatever. But I know that plate-wise, you know, I've saved myself a couple inches here, you know, because I originally started like that. Well, I've saved myself a couple inches of plate, and let me figure out how I'm going to clamp this thing. Alright, take the rubber off. There's that ring in there. Usually if you move the spring around to the front here, it's a little easier. You get a little more weight to. So get a little gap there. And once you get it lifted up over the edge there, you're pretty much home free. The snap ring pliers aren't doing anything. One thing you might want to do though is put the cut back on there to kind of keep that thing from just shooting off across the room. So it does have to be pressed out. Well, let's see how this goes. I've got the air over hydraulic. This is I've shown this before. So I'm not going to go into a great bit of detail. Now, one thing I am going to do here is I'm going to put these two pieces on. Okay. Because then I'm pushing on the body of the ball joint. Okay. Instead of on the shaft and the ball and the spring and the cup on the backside. So and this is slightly smaller diameter than that hole, so it shouldn't lock in there. It should work okay. There we go. Man, if you don't have a shop press, good luck with that. You know, a lot of times I try to show a shade tree version how to do that, and man, that takes some serious banging. You know, this thing's bent a couple times from pushing on it and stuff like that, but it seems to be doing. Now that I know what I'm doing, it seems to come out a whole lot easier. So, well, I'm kind of looking at it. And with the plate still on the bottom, I went and got another arm that has the plate welded on. See, that is nice, and that is pretty darn flat. I like that. Now, for the registration, I need to kind of get in here underneath this. So the bar lined up right where the cut was, so I didn't want to have it go in too far where I had cut it. So I figured, well, I'll just go get another arm out of there, since I got 10 of these damn things laying around, and use a new one and get it close. I may have to still do a little grinding or something like that to tweak it. So this is kind of what I'm thinking. Once I put that plate on there, that's pushing down over the flat plate under there. So I'm thinking I may just go ahead and cut that, and that'll, I might get away with putting it off to the side a little bit. I don't think it really gains me anything. It's still going to put it pretty close to the center. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the bottom off this and put that over there, and that'll allow me to push down nice and hard here. And then with the channels here, keeping it from twisting and that stuff, I should be able to make my 2 slices in there without any problem. That's the hope. Got it cut. Never did check how thick this thing was. Oh, it's 3/4 inch. Holy crap. I'm telling you what, it's just over 18 inches long. This is still one heavy piece of steel. My back's feeling it from holding by the grinder. Anyway, I'm just going to take the flap wheel, I think. Apparently that's not aggressive enough. So I'm going to find something else to get the mill scale off, since I have to weld to it. Push come to shove, I throw it in the mill and face mill it. That'll be time consuming. Well, this is what I've got so far. Hopefully it ought to work. I got to clamp down there. I mean, it's not going anywhere. So that comes out of there. I've got it so I can register it up against the end here. I put this big gusset because I notched it out so I could get notch the clamp out so I could get the screw, the jack, you know, the pressure over here further. You know, so I can bring it in and I can just register it against those two. I got a little bit of play in there, but you know, I got that wobble too. Once it clamps down, everything's solid. So I haven't tried it on one of these yet. Oh, it's wider. I might have to grind that back part there a little bit. Oh yeah, it's off the deck. This is still warm from welding. That's off the deck. Good 1/4 inch there, but a slight bevel on that pin. That alignment tab will take care of that. Let's pop the other one in because I cut the plate on it. Let's see how it lines up. Okay, that's about where it should be. Oh yeah, it's hard down on the deck, and bottom plate's not lined up perfectly, but close enough for what I'm checking right now. So it's in there, it's tight enough. I could make my 2 cuts. Okay, so how to do the registration? Let's see here. All right, let's see if this is okay. I almost have as much weight out here, but let's let that go down a bit, line up a little, and okay. So the first cut is going to be right about there, you know, somewhere in that neck of the woods. Okay, so it's off balance a little bit, but I can clamp that down, and that ought to cut pretty nice. And so I think what I can get away with is putting a mark on the on the jig there, and I'll clean this up and I'll do another one. I'm just going to do a guesstimate right now. But I'll put another one there in reference to the edge. So then once that's cut off and this piece is basically gone and out of the way, then I'll loosen it up and I'll slide it in until the other mark lines up, tighten it back down, and cut it again. That ought to work pretty good. I think I was back a little too far on the first one there. I kind of want to cut the edges of the washer off, which means it's going to catch this too. So I'll have to be a little ginger when I'm doing the cut down. I don't want to rush it. I'm not ready to make a cut right now, but I think that's going to work. So that's about it for today. Wife's going to start grilling steaks, so gotta go get cleaned up.